Hello. Welcome to Heartland Cares 101. I'm Krista Wood, the Executive Director. Today we have Heartland Cares Youth Action Group. We're going to talk about how youth get involved in preventing HIV and other STDs. So I'd like to introduce my audience. Today we have Max Voorhies, we have Sarah Rudolph, and we have Miriam Muscarella. And Miriam, you were the past president of the Youth Action Group, and you're the current president, Sarah, and you're the vice president, Max?
Yes.
Okay. So Miriam, how did the Youth Action Group get started?
Well, it all started whenever I was a freshman in high school. I was really involved in youth and government programs, and I wanted to do a proposal, a bill at this program. And I chose the subject of HIV because I was speaking with Dr. Laboon, and I just became very interested in something called confidential names reporting. And pretty much the problem was that the CDC was blocking funds for Kentucky because we had a certain type of system of reporting HIV. So I wrote a bill for this mock Youth and Government Assembly to change that. And I took this bill and I spoke with people at Heartland Cares. I believe I spoke with you as well about the bill and sort of the ramifications of the bill. And then I took it to the Youth and Government program. It was one of 3 bills out of about 150, which was passed and signed by our youth governor.
Wow.
But things I kept hearing from the groups were really gross misunderstandings about HIV and AIDS. So from that, I had all of this information and really a passion and a desire to further what I've done. What I had done at the Youth and Government program, even though I did educate people there and I helped them sort of understand what an HIV positive person goes through. And so I was talking with you, I believe, just a couple of weeks after, and it was incredible. The opportunity to go lobby for the very bill that I had passed in youth legislature. So I remember going for the HIV Awareness Day in the Capitol, where I would just go and speak with politicians. I spoke with the Speaker of the President of the Senate, and I got to speak with members of the House and Senate, and it was just an incredible opportunity to actually see out the change that I had wanted at this mock Youth and Government Assembly. And even then, I met legislators who had no idea that HIV/AIDS was a problem in Kentucky.
Right.
So from that experience, I was then offered a spot on the HCI Board of Directors my freshman year, and I was able to really see what an HIV/AIDS clinic does and the inner workings of the governance board that Heartland Cares, the Heartland Cares board is currently.
Great, yeah, and it's just been an incredible journey, and with youth being one of the fastest growing populations with HIV, that's a real concern for us, and it takes, I believe, youth talking with youth. So Sarah, tell us just a little bit about some of the things that you all have done through the Youth Action Group.
I think probably the first thing that we did that we really involved numbers of people was the Youth in Action Day. We got together at one of our local hospitals and talked about everything that was going on in the community. We started to educate ourselves. We had Dr. Laboon come in and give us HIV 101, and we had a positive speaker come, and we really, a lot of us were so unaware of everything that was going on in the community, and that was really one of the first opportunities where a lot of us got together and talked about what was going on. And I think we formulated perfect world solutions, and then we started to formulate real solutions for the problems that we were seeing. And from that, we have created some of our other events because we saw what everybody came up with when we were brainstorming about what was going on. So that was probably our first event. And then after that, we had the first A Day in the Life a couple months later. We had 25 students come into the clinic and they took on a profile of someone with HIV. We gave them their sex, their occupation, where they lived, and so they really took on what it was like to really be a person with the virus. We wanted to show them, we wanted to educate kids about the people, you know, and not so much the other things that you always hear. So they walked through the clinic, they went to the different parts of the clinic as if they were a client coming in for probably the first time, and so many of them learned so many things. It was a really, really good experience. I had so many people come up to me afterwards and tell me, you know, I didn't know that there was HIV in Paducah. I mean, has this been here the whole time? Or have these people been here forever? And it was incredible to hear them say that. And so many people after that got tested, and they spread the word about it, and it was really, really incredible.
That's great. Max, were you there for that day?
Yeah,
Did you go through
I
it?
was, yeah.
What was your experience with that?
Well, that day was really my first involvement with the group. That's how I got into it. Actually, Sarah came up to me. She was at that time the incoming president of the Youth Action Group, and she said, you know, Max, I've got this really cool program. You should come check it out. So I started doing off and on grunt work down at the clinic, you know, helping out any way I could. But then came the a day in the life, and I went down, participated in the clinic, got tested, walked through, and I never considered myself to be somebody that was really that in the dark. You know, I haven't really been sheltered from most of that, and you know, and I had spent a lot of time in the clinic up till then, but I really ended up learning a lot about HIV and prevention and infection, and especially the parameters of that here in Paducah, and just how big the problem is and how education can really impact what's happening around here in a positive way. And I've been hooked ever since.
Oh, wow, that's great. It's an incredible story. I know one of the things that y'all, in everything that you've done for Heartland Cares, I know you said you know, would come and do some grunt work, but you know, we say those are our highest people on the totem pole because they're usually the first people you see when you come into the clinic, and the first people you yell for when you need something. So I don't know what we would do without people coming in and volunteering, and the youth volunteerism has just grown incredibly. Can y'all talk just a little bit about that and how that's going?
Yeah, I know now it looks a little bit different in the clinic because there are always kids just running around up and down the stairs and breaking the copier and all that stuff. So, I mean, we do the best that we can, not just with Youth Action Group, but people ask us to run errands all the time, and we really, really enjoy being there, not just for what we are really passionate about with the particular Youth Action Group things, but just to be there to help, to talk to clients who come in, or talk to other volunteers who are there. It's a really great experience for us, and we really enjoy just helping out wherever we can.
And that's to us, I know, hearing those young voices laughing. Y'all have been great role models for us as well, because sometimes, you know, it gets a little bit, you know, stressful around there, and you know, to hear people laughing and screaming and yelling, you know, that kind of gets us out of that and keeps us moving. So I think it's been a great marriage. I know in the beginning of youth involvement, especially, you know, with you, Miriam, and you had formed a group of people to help, we had an issue where we had lost some funding that would help provide Christmas for the children of our clients. And I can't remember how many children that was. Do y'all remember?
I think starting out, it started at 60 children, and I think the next year the Illinois office actually shut down, or they said that they couldn't do it for that year. So we were forced to either incorporate these children or you know, make these children suffer who really shouldn't. So what happened was I sort of piloted some programs at Tillman. I did some drives for youth involvement and trying to get things donated. And that first year was, I believe, either my sophomore or my junior year. And by my senior year, the need had grown so much that we needed to write for additional monies, because at that point, what had happened was people at Heartland Cares were giving their money, their own personal pocket money, to support clients, which is just beautiful. But you know, it should definitely be more self-sustaining. And so I wrote for a grant to the United Way, an emerging needs grant, at the end of my junior year, requesting for kids' Christmas funding, and also an extension of this funding through like back-to-school supplies for children, and then warm weather or winter weather supplies, things like mittens, gloves, scarves for kids of all ages, from newborn to 18 years old. And it actually ended up being funded by the United Way, surprisingly, and much to my amazement and just real delight. They recommended that it go into a part of our annual budget from the United Way, which means that it's going to be funded, and it's been funded every year
every single year.
And actually, I think this year it was just expanded to include warm weather supplies. So it's just an excellent way that I sort of saw the world of grant writing in a specialized. It helped me with college applications a lot too, for sure, to sort of get in the mindset of writing things. But I remember I found out, I was at the Naval Academy for this summer seminar thing, and that entire week was really difficult for me. I found that a career in the Naval Service was not exactly what I wanted. But I also, the last day I was in the auditorium and I got your phone call, and I was so excited I ran out. It was the only good thing that happened to me the entire week. I was calling my mother. We were screaming, crying. It was really, really exciting to see that, just an idea to write a grant would turn into not only funding for 1 year, but for a couple of years. So that was really, really special. And then that year, to supplement those monies, we, in the United Way grant, we were required to match those funds so we can kind of make the money go twice as far. And so we did a back-to-school change drive. You all helped out with that. I remember we actually had like a war to see which class could bring in the most change, and it got really heavy. All these bags were huge, and they were like falling off of me. I think I had like 50 or 60 pounds of change with me at any given time from kids, and I think we ended up raising that year over $2,000 for the kids' Christmas program. So
in just a couple of days.
In just a couple of days, whenever you all said you had the need, and that was the year of the 120 kids who needed that. And also that year, we went out and we purchased the gifts for students for the first time, and we had sort of organized, what each person wanted, because they had the family put in the needs of the students. So it was so much fun to go to the mall and be a consumer, and I think you all continued that this year.
Yeah, we didn't get to help out that year for whatever reason. I know that we helped with the change drive at school, and then we didn't get to do the shopping that year, but the next year we picked up in the same place and we had the change drive. Again, we really bank on the competition between the classes. I mean, you give kids something to compete over at a pizza party and they're going to give you so much money. So that was so much fun. We counted money every day, and we really liked doing the change drive, and we got to shop for the presents again without her this time because she was in Geneva, but that was really, really hectic. All the Christmas shoppers are so angry and shoving you out of the way so that they can get the stuffed animal that their kid wants, and it was just so, we had the best time shopping for that. My favorite was, because of course we had lists, one of the workers had gone through and listed all the things that we needed to get so we wouldn't have to go through all of the forms that people had filled out, but some of the forms were left over, and it was so nice when people would just say, I have a 16-year-old daughter, just buy something, whatever we can get. And that was so much fun to shop just for like that person and think about maybe what she would like and what she likes to do. That was so much fun. And that's my favorite thing I think about working with this, is whenever you get to see, especially kids that are affected by the disease, and it's getting to help them in any way, that it was so much fun.
Well, and I know for me on Christmas morning, the most special moments that I have is thinking about all of the children on Christmas morning that you all have provided and wrapped presents for, that while we're all enjoying our Christmas, they are too, because with HIV, there's a lot of sacrifices and medications, and just living issues are difficult. And we've seen over and over again parents sacrificing their own health to be able to provide for their children so they won't feel discriminated against in any way, and to try to make sure that their children have what other children have. So you're doing so many things with that, not just what you're doing for the children, but the burden you're taking off of the parents, and that the children feel that those presents come from the parents, and that is just true altruism. It's very special.
The really good thing I liked about the present getting was that the lists were so specific. I mean, you knew. I mean, it took me 3 days to find an Elmo coloring book. But by God, I found an Elmo coloring book, and that's exactly what that child wanted. So it wasn't so much of a sacrifice for that family, and it was very gratifying.
And we were so thankful to have the monies that we did, because we were able to get the Xbox games that kids wanted. We were able to get all of those nice things for them, and for so many of them, they don't know what their parents are doing. They don't know that their parents have asked for this, and so it's just a regular Christmas morning for them. They have no idea what went behind it, and that, I think, is so magical. I love that.
It is. It's like Santa Claus.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, that's great. And I know one of the things that I wanted to say about Miriam writing the grant is that United Way had no idea that Miriam had written that grant. She wrote it for Heartland Cares, and even though she signed it, they had no idea that it was a high school student who wrote the grant. So the quality of that grant, and that we still have those grant monies, and that they are continuing to be expanded, because now for our youth we have school supplies twice a year. We have summer fun and sun, like protection from the sun, sunscreens, lip protection, visors, sunglasses, things like that, so that they're safe from the sun, because those are very expensive items for parents to provide. And then the warm items, the gloves and scarves and hats, to keep them warm through the winter, and then of course the Christmas. So that is just a huge undertaking. And I know that when I go to different state conferences and I'm on different state committees, when I talk about the Youth Action Group, they've just been totally amazed. And we have a state conference, and I believe that the Youth Action Group was presented at a state conference.
That's
so
right.
what about that?
Well, it was really wonderful. I went to the state conference, I believe it was 2 years ago, and I spoke about the Youth Action Group. It was called something to the effect of, what are YAGs and how you can have one too.
Yeah.
And so I went and I spoke with people from all across the state about our program here in tiny old Paducah. And I was surprised to find that similar clinics in other parts of the state, I mean, Louisville, Lexington, all over the state, truthfully, don't have any kind of youth involvement the way that Heartland Cares does. And it's something everyone wants, but it doesn't seem like many people really have worked very hard in trying to procure students. So it was incredible to be able to share some of the tips that I had whenever I was sort of prototyping the program, the very beginning. I'm not going to say it wasn't without challenges. I mean, the first year, getting people to meetings I found was the most difficult thing in the world, because coordinating schedules of 5 different schools, and then we're all very committed people. The first year we were all very, very committed to other things, so it was difficult. And then helping people all across the state be able to see that it's going to take time, but that it's very gratifying, and in the end, incorporating students is more than getting this job done or this volunteer quota filled. It's about inducing actual change, which for us, I think it's what we want to do, and we don't really have the opportunity in a lot of ways. We realize that, I guess now we realize that we have a special opportunity to help people in such a unique way. And as students, I think students in general, we don't really understand the impact we can have until we're too old. And if we all just helped others and acted on our passions, what in the world could we not do?
Absolutely. And I hear all the time, our youth is our future, but our youth is our present. It's what's happening right now. And I just think that that's really incredible, because when you talk about your change drive for Heartland Cares or for the children of people with HIV, what do you get in return? Like when you're talking to students about doing the change drive, what kind of education goes about with that?
Well, one thing is so many of the members of the Youth Action Group have started to act in other areas of the community, realizing now the strength of their voice. Aside from the wonderful things that happen in the HIV positive community as a result of what we do, just ourselves, we develop as people through what we do. We realize our voice, we realize what we can do, and it helps to build our own character as well as the things we can do for everyone else.
Exactly. And it's so interesting to have youth interaction. You know, you'll talk to someone at school, or I did, and I remember people were asking me questions about things involving sex or involving, risky behaviors. And to be that kind of a resource, someone that they don't have to go to a teacher, they don't have to go to a specific counselor and feel awkward. These are our friends who are asking us these things, and to be a resource is so empowering. And it's comfortable, and it's just a very special place to be, because you know that maybe they wouldn't be hearing the things that we knew. Maybe they would be hearing misconceptions. And to have well-informed and educated youth is something that is beyond valuable, because it's kind of like a ripple effect. It's one little change, and what we say to other people gets carried on to others. Of course, speaking in high school, I mean, gossip, it's really like a fire. And the same thing holds true with this information.
So Max, do you have the same experiences with people coming to you?
Yeah, well, I have a story about that. My friends that I hang out with, we'll go play Frisbee, whatever. And I remember really distinctly one of the times, one of these things happened where I just really realized what a resource we had become. It was because Heartland Cares, the clinic itself, has so many resources and facets available to people that are interested in going down and checking it out. And all of a sudden we've become this like a tangent almost, a place, a causeway where you can go to Heartland Cares through me. And I mean, I didn't talk to this guy at all about Heartland Cares, what we do. If he didn't ask, I wasn't going to tell him, because I've found that if they want to know, they'll ask me, and I'm not gonna pressure anyone. And he came up to me one day, because it was a few weeks, and we were talking, and he'd be like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" I was like, "Oh, I've got a Heartland Cares meeting. I'll see you later." He's like, "Okay." So a few weeks after I started getting really heavily involved in everything, he kind of approached me in private. He was like, "So, what exactly do you do at Heartland Cares?" And I was like, "Funny you should ask." And started telling him all about it, and so I told him about it, and we talked about it a little bit, kind of offhand. And then a couple weeks later, he approached me. He was like, "Do you think you could get me tested?" And I was like, "Yes, I can get you tested." And while we were down there, got him brochures and all kinds of stuff like that. It was just one of those kind of waking moments for me, where I really realized just the power that we had gained through being so involved in
and
this
that you've made a
program.
difference, every day in someone's life. Because I know when you presented your freshman year to the government group, how many people did you present to?
Oh, I think it was about 1,000. About
1,000 children or youth. And so those 1,000 youth, did you talk about HIV and its prevalence and risks and things like that to 1,000 youth?
It was really, really interesting. The way that bills are presented are very similar to the way that they're actually presented in the Capitol. So you're given, I think, 3 minutes for your opening and summation speeches, and people ask questions, and then you have pro-con debate intertwined where kids get to voice their vote in a way and say, whether or not they want to pass the proposal. And so, the people who were speaking negative, I had a great time to sort of lay down exactly what I wanted to say, and I said it to all these students. But I have had people who have asked questions that, don't all people with HIV die after the first year, or don't they look different, just really silly things that you would think someone would need to know. And I was able to address some of those questions, and I was able also to refute some of the debate,
Yes.
which was really important because the negative speeches, the only thing that anyone said negative was something to the effect of, you know, well, it was really insensitive, actually. It was like, you know, they're not going to be around anyway, so why worry about it because they're going to die? And the truth is, you know, this kind of misconception is what keeps people out of those clinics, of getting tested. That, you know, people, this is a death sentence, because now with medications, it's entirely livable. You know, it's there. Of course, it's a new normal. If you're infected, it's going to be different, but it's no longer a death sentence, and people will just realize that by getting tested and by being knowledgeable about their status or their partner status before they become intimate with a partner, that they could save themselves so much by just eliminating this taboo, this barrier that was there. And that's something I found was very eminent. You'd have some people who would shrink away from the debate and who would kind of look and say, you know, is she infected? Like, why is she doing this? Talking about me at the Youth and Government program, and so for these kids to see this or even to talk about it outside of a school environment was just bizarre for some of them. But I think really the important part of that was breaking that taboo and having these students understand that this is a problem that affects teens just like us, children, grandparents, every race, every ethnicity, every gender, everything, truthfully.
Absolutely. Sarah, with the Change Drive, how did you promote trying to get money? Was there a lot of education that was surrounded around that with the other students to be able to get money from them for the Change Drive for the kids?
I know the first year that we did it, you came in and spoke to, I think, the French and Spanish classes who were heading up the drive. They were helping to collect, and you talked about the clinic and an upcoming, I think, event that we were having. So a lot of kids became aware then. That was their first time that they knew that there was a clinic in Paducah or anything like that. And as the Change Drive was happening the second year, a lot of the people knew because of the year before. But we would go into the class and they'd be like, now what's this for again? And we would explain it to them. So we did get to explain to a lot of classes what we were doing, why we were doing it, and what it would mean. And that was such a good opportunity because while we weren't technically going into the schools and speaking in a formal way, we were able to talk to the classes for just a few minutes when that would happen, and that was just a really good opportunity that we didn't anticipate, so that was really good. That's
wonderful. And I know there's been so many new things going on with the Youth Action Group. You're expanding because there was interest at one of the state meetings that I go to from someone who works for the Kentucky Department of Education, and when I would talk about what the Youth Action Group was doing, she approached me about a grant, and so she came down from Frankfurt and had lunch with us, and we talked about the Youth Action Group, and she said, okay, we're going to put this on paper, and wow, you know, we've got a 5-year grant. And what's that grant going to do for us?
It's giving us a lot of money.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I mean,
and why is that so important?
We never even knew what it was like to have money. We just kind of piecemealed whatever we could get, any in-kind donations we could get from any of the local businesses, anything we could scrounge up at Heartland Cares from leftovers from other areas. It was just, I mean, we never noticed that we didn't have any money. And now that we have the money, we're just like, oh, you know, we can do so many things. And we're just starting to get into that, starting to use that money for all of these. We're trying to expand on all of the events we had last year, make them better and more effective, and get more people there. And it's incredible what we can do now. We never knew we'd be able to do it. We never expected to have this much money.
So I know at Heartland Cares up on our working table upstairs, there's stacks of brochures that have been purchased with that money. What are those brochures for?
They're for the event that we have, the Back to School Splash, which I think is a really, really good opportunity. We had always had events that were focused at a particular group of kids, and I think now we're getting an opportunity to reach a different group. There's not going to be any upfront education. It's not going to be advertised as an educational event. It's just for fun. And off to the side, we'll have brochures, information, workers from Heartland Cares. We'll have condoms and lube available if anybody wants it. It's just a good opportunity for people to get educated without knowing they're going to. I think it's just, it is a really, really good way to get into that group of kids.
And that is incredible because it's for the community at large, and so anyone who wants to come into a swim party, which is what it is, then they're going to come and be able to have fun, and hopefully we'll get some other people interested in doing some of the same things you all are doing. Is that correct? And then are we going to do a day in the life of again?
Yes. Soon we're going to have a day in the life where we are going to, once again, kind of revamp the process of having the profiles, the client profiles. So we're going to sort of enjoy that one more time. I won't be here, unfortunately. I'll be off to school. But it's really incredible how it's changed and how the role of the Youth Action Group has changed, because in the beginning, I remember the biggest hurdle for me was getting people to donate and getting in-kind donations. I remember the first time I called like 20, 30 drug reps trying to organize and see if they would sponsor an event. And Lordy Moses, I found a drug rep who would pay, you know, $500 just to meet with our physicians at the clinic, and they were so gracious about it, and you know that funded our Youth in Action Day, our first Youth in Action Day event. And as I realized this, as I realized that, you know, about 3/4 to like 5/6 or however much of my time, like the majority of my time, went to procuring these donations, and you know, the time that was left over was about developing these events. Now it's completely opposite. Now we don't have to worry about money. Now what we have to do is worry about money management and making sure that we spend it on the most effective tool to reach youth. So it's a very unique place to be in, completely reversed. I mean, we all know how to ask for donations, and I Lordy Moses, I honestly, I remember.
They need to teach a college course on begging.
Exactly. I was
pathetic.
We could all make A's.
We could.
Absolutely.
Well, and with the new grant, the education grant, we're creating a pilot because they were so impressed with what we're doing in little old Paducah, Kentucky, that they want us each year for 5 years to expand into another county. And so what are your ideas and goals about being able to do that?
Well, right now, most of our members are from the same school. We're all around the same age. And one of the main things we need to do with this grant is to get younger people and to get people from different schools. So we're moving next into Graves County, and we already have a lot of interested people at that school.
Wow.
We are all so wrapped up in the events we're doing right now that our recruitment has kind of been on the back burner, but that's something we really want to get into as the year goes on, and we're really excited about, and they are excited. I talked to a lot of people at GSP who are really interested in what we do, and I'm really excited about getting so many different voices from different parts of the large community that we belong to. So,
and that has been something that's been amazing to me, because y'all have had to go and talk to the superintendents of the Department for Education. Is that correct?
Yes, it was really daunting at first, you know, writing these letters and asking for access into schools from Heartland Cares to, you know, schools all around our region. And it was really heartening to hear some of the stories and you know, the points of view from superintendents. One had, you know, firsthand experience and having a teacher in the 90s being diagnosed and, you know, coming out on national news with it. And it was so interesting to hear these perspectives and, you know, understand that people know that there's a need. And I guess in a way they were waiting for us to approach them. And, you know, now that we're well equipped to go into schools and to speak to large audiences as teens or, you know, recruiting positive speakers or prototyping a day in the life events at schools, it's really just an optimal time in the Youth Action Group in going into schools and really making this word and what we know and what we're passionate about spread and help those people really become aware of their decisions and how they affect their future.
And so I know one of our employees who is trained through the Center for Disease Control to teach pre and post test counseling, which means that you can counsel someone, give them a test, and then counsel them about the results of the test. He scheduled this for the Youth Action Group, and so y'all are going to learn about how to test someone for HIV, is that correct?
Yes, we are, and we are so excited about being able to do that. One of the requirements for our grant is that we have to test 100 youth, well not us, but we have to, that 100 youth have to have been tested at the clinic. And we're going to get those numbers so fast now because there are so many of our friends who just would be uncomfortable going to the clinic. And now we can just do it anywhere, in somebody's room, or I mean anywhere outside. It doesn't matter. So we're really, really excited about that opportunity. We know we're going to reach so many more people being able to do that.
And so in that test, if anyone's interested, is just, it's a swab. It's not a blood draw. So I know a lot of times people think, oh, a needle, a blood draw, I don't want to do that. So it's a 20-minute turnaround, 20 to 30-minute turnaround test that will indicate whether it needs to be followed up with a test or not, with a blood draw or not. But that being able to speak one-on-one, peer-to-peer, that's the underestimated power that I think youth have, that they just don't realize. You all don't realize. You all do, but most youth don't realize the power of knowing that how you can be a voice, how you can educate about anything, not just HIV, but anything that youth go through, which could put them at risk for HIV, but also to put them more at ease to take a test. So that's incredible. How do you think, and I know one of the things that the class teaches is how to talk to someone if they test positive, but have you thought about that at all, and getting ready to train on how to counsel and give an HIV test? Have you thought about having to tell someone that they may be positive for HIV?
I have thought about it. We've listened to numerous accounts of people who are positive, talking about when they found out and how they had to deal with it, how they had to tell their family and their friends. We've listened to positive speakers. I know we've watched interviews online. We've really equipped ourselves with knowledge about the emotional experience of finding out that you're positive. And I think that most of us would probably be able to do a fair job. I think that we understand.
Excellent job.
Yeah, I think that we understand what they would have to be going through.
That's always an interview question that I use in hiring, because everybody who works at Heartland Cares is trained in pre and post test counseling, so that anyone who walks in will be equipped to, be able to test them. And I know we're going to have a lot of interns also in Heartland Cares, so we're really looking forward to having some extra hands. When we first started 10 years ago, no one would walk through the door for a test. We were lucky to get 1 or 2 people, and now we get that many daily coming in, and through word of mouth and being able to promote in numbers, I can just see those numbers rising on-site and off-site, so I think that's really incredible too. One of the things that we've been planning and working on that we really need support from the community is our Youth Action Group Coalition. Can you all talk about that a little bit? Go ahead, Max.
I'll start. You can pick up when I leave some holes in it. But the coalition, basically, it's a grant we're not eligible for yet, but we hope to apply for, and it'd be a lot of money, frankly, and it'd help out in so many areas. And basically what the coalition is it's a coalition of several members of the community. We need doctors, police officers, clergy, judges, teachers. I mean, there's anything you can think of as far as a part of the community. We need one. And once we get all those people together, it's kind of almost like a board, a panel, and we can talk to everyone in the community and see what all types of people think about the directions we'd be taking this money for the purpose of HIV prevention and education. and it's a really great idea. It's a lot of work getting everybody together, but it's a good cause. It's worth the work.
And what we're really hoping is that it can become its own entity, that while it was started by the Youth Action Group, that this can work for many things in the community, not just HIV prevention, education, but to have them all together like that could be beneficial for any one of their own programs. And we didn't realize that till after we had already done that, but now we realize what an incredible opportunity that is for other groups who are trying to do the same thing as we are, only on a different level, and we're really excited about that.
Exactly. It's all about collaboration, and it's a really special opportunity, like you all were saying, to put together these entities that you would see on a page together, but you wouldn't see in a room together. You know, you'd see a lot of at-risk groups, anything from Narcotics Anonymous to child abuse to you know, women's spousal abuse to, I mean, you know, children who have diseases and have STDs and don't know how to protect themselves. You know, all of these risk factors, people who are working to prevent them in the same room, and people who are just interested in helping out. And instead of, you know, we all have our individual programs that are out there to target a specific audience and people who are at risk for something specific. But if we can create a coalition that brings everything together, works in the same direction, with all of our combined resources and with all of the ideas we have, how incredible is that opportunity to go out and to seek out this mission to eliminate risk factors for youth. It's a lot more effective than any of us working alone. It's really such an exceptional opportunity to provide community collaboration, which is the way the world works. You know, it's what gets us forward. You know, honestly, if I had started the Youth Action Group but I had involved no one, if I had just said, you know, I'm just going to be Miriam volunteer, then it would have been all fine and dandy. I mean, I would have achieved something. But, you know, by incorporating youth, and whenever youth became interested, by them incorporating their friends, you know, all across the gamut, it really spread. And I think that's what's so important about this coalition, that we all unite and we all work towards a common goal.
Absolutely, and I think one of the most interesting things for me about this, and it's what I hope that we're going to do a good job with the coalition in educating community, is that you know, HIV has no boundaries, and when we look at the risk of our youth, the risk of people in our community, it goes across the board. I mean, there's so many things that you know, put us at risk, and as a community, do we have the mechanisms in place to reduce that risk, you know, when it's come to our awareness, and be effective at that, so that we can be a healthy community, you know, that supports each other and especially supports the youth. So I think that I know that when we look at risk, it's just gotten so big now, and it's to me where HIV was 10, 20 years ago. It was non-existent as far as resources in the community, and now we have resources. We have all types of services under one roof. We have some referrals, you know, resources, some different community agencies that we can work with. We have good prevention. We have youth working hard. But then we've got all these other factors that we've become aware of because of all of our work in HIV, like what else puts youth at risk? You know, when you're asked that in school, I know you have to take a youth risk behavior inventory. What kind of things are we talking about that put youth at risk in the community, and what are we doing to do good prevention of that?
Unfortunately, all of those risk factors kind of go together. When kids have unprotected sex, a lot of times they're on drugs, a lot of times they're drinking alcohol. There are just so many things that kids can do that can really make such an impact on their life. And once we hit one area, HIV prevention, we do start seeing all the other areas that touch it or go along with it. And I think once we get started with this, then it's so much easier to get to all those other areas.
There are a lot of risky behaviors you wouldn't even think. I mean, on that inventory, I think it was like, do you speed when you're driving? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. Like, I'm definitely at risk for something, maybe a crash. But, you know, it's really interesting to see how all of these things that we consider, normal, things that, just would seem like, hello, it's okay to hold someone's hands, it's okay in a lot of ways, but stuff that we wouldn't even consider would be, we'd be at risk. Who would have thought that by kissing someone you're at risk for getting herpes? And, all of these things, there are a lot of things that you just have to be cognizant about and in your decision making and really understand what you're doing while you're doing it. Because there's so much we do blindly.
Sure, and there's been a lot in the news lately about STDs with youth especially, and the prevalence of STDs in youth, and it's really scary to think, the percentages, because they're looking at 1 in 4 teens, with an STD, and you think 1 in 4 teens with an STD, that means 1 in 4 teens have had a risky behavior, and whatever's putting them at risk for an STD is also putting them at risk for HIV as an STD, or hepatitis as an STD, or getting an STD that's not curable, like HIV or herpes or genital warts, things like that. And those statistics were really scary, for me. And how do you all feel about that? What's been said in the media and your role in that? I'm getting to some serious stuff now.
It's really a relationship between not enough education, or perhaps education in the wrong areas. A lot of the things we deal with as the Youth Action Group are methods of realistic, effective peer-to-peer communication. Sarah talked about earlier at the Day in the Life event, the first thing we did is we came up with real ideal circumstance solutions. And we said, okay, if the world was perfect, we'd do this. And then we took a step back and we said, okay, the world's not perfect. So then we came up with real world solutions, and how we can actually connect to kids that, we're not gonna come out and say that we can make you stop wanting to get high, because some kids, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what kind of speech you stand at the podium and give, they're convinced before you even talk to them. And our focus isn't so much about, of course we want to reduce risk behaviors, but I feel like our focus is less on curing everyone cold turkey into this perfect society, but reducing the risk behaviors we can and educating about the ones we can.
So, Max, what I'm hearing you say is that you feel like education is the key, not
Definitely.
telling someone what to do or not to do, but educating on how to be as safe as possible in whatever they do.
Because when you break it down, students, especially teenagers, are going to do whatever they feel like they want to do. And you can try to convince, you can try to persuade, you can give brochures, speeches, anything you want, and the fact of the matter is when it comes down to it, they're going to make the decision they want to make, and you just try to be the factor that tells them, okay, maybe I don't want to do that, and they may or they may not, but they'll know, and they'll make a competent choice about what they want for themselves.
I think that's such a good point, because I know one of the things that we talk about in the clinic when we are educating is to not use scare tactics. I know I went to school many, many years ago, and there were a lot of scare tactics used on me, and they didn't work, but they just probably made me more anxious. But I didn't have any information even to either accept or deny those scare tactics, but I didn't have the education that I needed to even know if that was true or not, or if I needed to be concerned. And I know now, when I ask people, adults and youth, how would you respond to someone getting up and using scare tactics to try to convince you not to have a risky behavior? And a lot of times what they tell me most of the time is that it may work, for an hour. It may scare me to death for an hour. It may work for maybe even a couple hours, maybe even a day. but it's not going to be long before I've completely forgotten all about it. And I guess that's my biggest concern for youth when we're talking about youth, because the things that you're describing, to me, as a psychologist, are symptoms, whether we're talking about drugs, whether we're talking about risky sexual behaviors, whether we're talking about driving fast, or, maybe taking risks and jumping out of airplanes or parasailing or whatever, just some little personality things that we get thrills out of. We've got to go back, and I think Miriam touched on it, when she said there's so many different factors, with whether it's domestic violence or whether it's child abuse or whether it's what's going on in the home, or whatever it is, we're not getting the information we need, and we don't have the support we need to be able to make the best possible decisions.
Completely. I think a lot of times people can't really see outside of their situation, and it's really hard for them to rely on other people and other experiences. And I think a big problem with that is we see our lives as a big conglomerate, and we're the only one involved. And we're the only one that has ever been or ever will be this kind of world-centric thought. But what we're wanting to do, I think, with the Youth Action Group and with the Community Coalition, is to provide awareness in this field, this biological field. We are all created the same way, with our or very similar body types, with the same risks and the same being prone to certain risks. And so if we can get everything out on the table so people can actually take a look at what's going on, it's going to be much more effective than corralling people into some category and say, do not. You don't need to do this because I said so, and if people actually understand what's going on underneath the surface, just looking at ourselves objectively and looking in a worldview, seeing that this happens to everyone. These kind of decisions, these problems, they're not person specific. So many people have very similar problems. If we can look at it objectively and help others see objectively, they can better make decisions about our bodies. And I know, being a teenager, it's really a crazy time because our emotions are going haywire, and hormones and everything is kicking in gear. And if we can help show this biological aspect of ourselves to our peers, then maybe some risks can be prevented, and some people will think twice before they make a decision, and they won't just say, oh, this looks like fun. They can say, people have done this before, and it hasn't really ended up very well, so maybe I should think twice,
And just having the luxury of having a peer who knows. I mean, to me, what I wouldn't have given to have had, that opportunity, because of course we didn't have internet where I couldn't Google it. I like to Google everything, but we didn't have those things, and so we just had to rely on each other. And when I think back on the things that I heard and believed, and there wasn't anybody to really ask. Because the first thing that would come out of their mouth is, have you been doing that? It's like, you're grounded, It's like, no. So it's just that things have changed a lot, and we need to use that education, for our advantage. And I think that is, your strength, and asking the community to help support what you have to offer. And the future of the Youth Action Group. What is the future for the group? Where do you see the future?
It's no telling now. With all of the money that we have, we are going to expand so far. Once we touch all of our surrounding counties, and they touch their surrounding counties, this is going to be a pilot group for the entire nation one day, once we pass it down to the younger generations, where we have gotten off on a very, very good foot.
Yes, absolutely. So yesterday Frankfurt, tomorrow DC.
Exactly.
That's what it's going to take.
Exactly.
And that is what, and your voice is so much powerful than my voice there. And what has that done for you as far as how you see your own personal futures?
Well, one of the biggest obstacles for me, especially right when I started getting involved in the group, we were trying to rally people from schools all around for the events that we were putting on, like the the masquerade ball and the art show, and it was.
Oh yes, World AIDS Day.
And World AIDS Day, and getting into talking to the superintendents and the principals and writing letters and making phone calls and writing emails and writing follow-up emails and more follow-up emails and more follow-up phone calls. And basically, it's just chasing people down, because we can't call people in the middle of school most of the time because we're in school also. So it really got difficult. But even more so than that was once we got there, once we got in an office with the principal or the superintendent or the teacher we wanted to talk to, I think they were really surprised, because on the phone, this is Max from the Heartland Cares Youth Action Group, and I'd like to come talk to you about this and that and that. And then I get there, and they're like, "Oh, you're a teenager," and they they don't really know what to expect. So it was kind of hard at first, especially getting through to a lot of these adults. I was like, who is this kid sitting in my office telling me that I need to get brochures together and get these to my kids? But the more we talk to these schools, the more they listen to us, and I'm really finding out, like you said earlier, the power of the voice of somebody that is a youth. Youth talking to youth is a really powerful thing, and even youth talking to adults is a powerful thing. If for nothing else, just the element of surprise, because
absolutely
they really don't see it coming with a lot of us a lot of the time.
And that's great. And you all are doing everything that all the employees at Heartland Cares are doing, and thank you so much. If someone's interested in the Youth Action Group, before we close, how do they join?
One of our favorite modes of communication is Facebook.
Oh, Facebook.
We have a Facebook group. It's just HCIYAG. And you can just join, and you'll get messages on when we meet, and anybody can come to our meetings, adults too, and get involved and know ways that they can help. That's probably the easiest way. Or you can just call Heartland Cares and give them your number, and we'll call you and talk to you about what you can do.
And the same with the Community Coalition. We need adults of this community who care about the community and want to get involved.
Or our email address is yag@hcares.org.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much for everything that you do.
Thank you.